Good question.
Our work here is done.
Maybe I can start by saying a few things about the data revision, since it's...
That's an excellent idea, Peter.
So one of the feedbacks that we got is, so Guff and I are project leaders on 32,000, and one of the bits of feedback that we got in doing 32,000-2 was, so what are the differences? And the answer between -1 and -2 was, it's so many we don't track changes. But in the data revision, we are adding informative notes where something significant has changed to help developers locate those differences. So it's where, for example, we've reworded a paragraph, and maybe the wording is a subtle wording change. It's not a technical change, but maybe it's important that you understand that that was changed so that developers can go into their code and just confirm that their implementation is correct. So hopefully that's a service we've provided. So I thought I'd just let people know that we do try and listen to what people say. I will actually add, it's very hard with ISO to do track changes and so forth. It's not exactly something that they support.
Right, yeah, just a reminder that 32,000 Part 2 in its introduction does contain, in what I'll say a very good overview format, a list of differences in concepts, or an overview form between 32,000 Part 2 and 32,000 Part 1, or what we might think of as remembers PDF 1.7. But yes, with the data revision, keeping much better track of that, cataloging that in a much more systematic way.
And I think one of the key changes for the data revision is something that we'll touch on a lot of the things that we've heard about today and yesterday. We've made big changes in the tagging pieces, particularly in what's known as Annex L, which is the hierarchical containment rules. And that should enable things like, so if you saw Roban's talk about derivation, that's a strong enabler for that sort of technology to work well and consistently, as well as to improve some of the 2.0 changes we made in tagging. So semantics just got a little bit richer and better.
So we've been hearing about 2.0, when will it be in shipping products, or is it in shipping products already?
So I can speak to that. So it's definitely in shipping products now.
Which ones?
It's
the big ones?
I'll let the other panel member say. I used to work for a very large Japanese vendor that does printers. All their products support it, and did many years actually before the 5 standard was published.
Yeah, there are many RIPs, many digital front engines, and many toolkit and SDKs, including from many of the vendors in this room, have supported PDF 2.0 for quite some time now.
And even Acrobat on the consumption side is mostly that. I mean, you open a PDF 2.0 file, it works. There are some things that are print specific, that are high-end print that we don't do, and someone like Leonard would be able to give you a more detailed rundown. But
well, I can say that APDE 5.1 does support PDF 2.0 but
Yes.
5.1.
print stuff.
Print stuff.
In terms of applications producing PDFs, like the Creative Cloud applications, when will we see it there?
Well, I think it really depends on the need. And so the guidance in the industry has always been use the lowest version of PDF that you need. So a lot of the times that's PDF 2.5 because there's object stream compression, so it makes your PDFs a lot smaller, more efficient. But unless you're using a 1.6 or 1.7 feature, we don't expect people to distribute 1.7 documents just for the sake of it. And I see 2.0 in a very similar manner. It's when you start to use the features. So, as I say, tagging was a big part of PDF 2.0. So if you use things like structured destinations to link content, that's a 2.0 feature. So when you need a feature of 2.0, we expect it to be produced and such. And so I think it's slowly building momentum as people need those features, as those features become more mainstream and useful, and then the software to consume that is present. So that's the way we're kind of building on it. So there's no timeline yet, but as the features are valuable, those are the ones we implement.
I mean, I can add for the print industry, there are just a few features that are interesting for certain areas. Can you hear me? Okay. But the industry is there kind of waiting for PDF X6, for instance. I mean, that is just a subset standard that is going to come out, as I've said, probably next year. So and the industry wouldn't take up on using these features before this subset standard is out. So I think next year, when the data revision comes out and all the different subset versions come out, maybe there is some more uptake on PDF2.0 and as Matthew said, specifically on the features in PDF2.0.
So I think the key thing's been the per object black point compensation. That's been a big thing that's driven it. And there's all, although PDFX is yet to sort of catch up in that respect, there is a demand from the industry, and that a lot of groups have always had the ability to control black point compensation anyway. But now you can control it on a per object basis, so you can compose pages and do other advanced features and get the behaviour that you want.
And just to add to that, to tie that back to the standards, PDF is the PDF standard, 32,000 Part 2 is a Swiss Army knife, if you think about it. It does so many things. The subset standards, so be it A, UA, X, VT, they tend to then use it in specific profiles that are applicable to broad audiences. So for example, PDF A and UA are currently under development. A is moving to publication very soon. It's going through draft international standard phases. UA should be moving next year, I think, into publication. And so as standards are built around that and start to become well used, that will also significantly drive PDF 2.0 adoption.
So this theme has come up a few times during our the whole conference. Where do we go in the future? And I just wanted to put the question to the panelists specifically. Like, if we look at the standard, where do you think the highest priorities, or if we're going to evolve the standard, in which areas would be the highest priority areas to do so?
Well, maybe I'll start. So we actually have had that discussion in the working group for PDF. We actually had probably for the last 3 years or so, been building up a set of features that people had proposed as future areas for interest. It's not to say that there's any standard coming, it's just areas. So it includes using newer encryption techniques, so much stronger encryption techniques. I'll let Matthew speak to that because he's actually shared about that top. We're looking at new imaging formats for HDR and other kinds of advanced images. We're looking at better compression techniques. There's some interest in using pen writing, the pressure from pens and incorporating that into documents. You understand what I mean? So on a tablet, you have pressures and angle of pens and that kind of thing. So incorporating that kind of metadata along with the graphics into the document.
So that's a large list. I'm kind of wondering if there's a single area you can pick up.
Well, I think encryption is one of the ones that just jumps out. I mean, it's going to be difficult because we want to keep that backward compatibility. We've been talking about that sort of the last few days. But to me, encryption and security and new digital signatures, all that whole area is something that we need to bring forward.
And just to add to that, since to be fair, I'm co-chairing that group of Roman now, but there's obviously just the natural evolution of what we already have, bringing in SHA-3, so just keeping the algorithms current and up-to-date, secure. As we look at what the other needs in the industry are, we're going to get presentations on quantum crypto. I know very little about it today, but I don't know how necessary that is, but hopefully that's something where experts will come to the table and say, this is really key. And so I tend to agree. I think the most immediate need is keeping encryption and digital signatures current because they move very fast. PDF, for good reasons, doesn't move as quickly as a standard. And I think that's a good thing. We're trying to find some careful balance between the two. Just to touch very briefly on this, one of the things we are doing at ISO is publishing extensions to PDF, proper ISO extensions rather than say third-party company extensions that allow small groups to develop and standardize areas that are perhaps more focused and can move more quickly. And then if they gain adoption, so these will be properly ISO published, they'll be well-defined, well-specified, and if the industry adopts them, they'll slowly move into the next part of PDF, whether that's 2.1, 3.0. We haven't come up with the name for the next version yet, but whatever that next is, that's how we will slowly build is through kind of industry input and natural growth. That's my
Yeah,
feeling.
and it's, I just want to emphasize a point that you made, Matthew, and that is that while we have some areas that we know are advancing along, the important thing is that the evolution of PDF will be industry-driven, industry need-driven. And so we are not necessarily going to be able to grab a crystal ball and know what that's going to be 5-10 years in the future. That's going to depend in large part on the user community and what the user community adopts, what implementations adopt, and how the use and the needs of the community evolve as well. So it's a symbiotic relationship where ideas bubble forth, gain traction, those become candidates for standardization. One doesn't wait for a standard to appear and then wait for people to adopt it. That's not anything that leads to broad-scale adoption.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I was curious, several times throughout the comments, I'm pretty new to the PDF world as a technical thing, I'm more of an end user. But are there tools or test suites that the PDF Association provides to help me navigate all the tools out there and figure out what works and what doesn't in the thing I'm using? Or is that something that I go to third parties for, or is there no such thing?
I'll answer some of that. I think we'll all have, so yes, the PDF Association does offer test suites of various subset standards. And for things like PDF X, there are other groups, again, working group, I think was mentioned in Dietrich's talk, the alternate test suite. So there are test suites for, I think, most, if not all, subset standards. Sorry, what was the other part of the question?
I was just wondering where I would get those, or I've seen some, I
So-
Googled it real quick, and like some commercial sites came up that said they
Yeah.
do
So
testing.
there are commercial test suites, but the PDF Association website is first stop. So we're hosting, I know that the Cal Poly developed by California Polytechnic or something for PT, Matterhorn.
The Matterhorn protocol. Over the PDFA side, there's a project called VeraPDF. It's a PDFA validator. And then on the PDFA website, you can find information reported from PDF Association members on compatibility of their products and offerings with various PDF and PDF 2.0 features as well.
And it should be said that as 32,000 was getting close, as part 2 was getting close to being published, there was some vendor testing, there was some compatibility groups that formed. We had some in-person meetings where vendors could bring their software, test compatibility and compliance with the standard, discuss differences to try to help with that as well. And that was very key in ironing out some of the last wrinkles in the standard towards the end. That said, I mean, I think we have heard that maybe what's there isn't enough yet. And I think it's definitely a message I'm going to take away is what more can we do to make it easier to validate that the PDF in general is good, and that software is at least capable of doing a base level of functionality and such. I mean, we at ISO shy very much away from saying you have to do all of the standards to be a compliant PDF view. In fact, we explicitly do not say that. We go so far as to say PDF is a very, very large standard, and what's applicable in your industry may not be the whole standard. And so we try not to police that, not to say that you have to be at this level. On the other hand, I think it is helpful when someone is choosing an application to know what it is and isn't capable of, just to influence choice and to match your requirements. So that's something I think we should be looking into as an industry.
And there are third-party test suites and things as well.
So one thing I might make a comment to the industry is that one of the things that we're not very good at is each vendor stating categorically what they do and do not support. So that out.
You can find that in broad strokes on the PDF Association website for
Extremely broad strokes.
So, thanks. Yeah, so what's the status of scripting in the ISO spec?
So Adobe kindly passed over the ECMAScript specification to ISO, and that's currently being standardized. Is not here, I can't see Phil. Phil's the project leader on that. Oh, okay.
But yes, so
It's CD, I think, is it, oh no, it's gone to disk and.
I think it just went to this.
I think it went to disk.
I think it went to this also.
So we did have a bit of change. Originally there was going to be 2 documents, one for 2D and one for 3D. But now in the last series meetings we've merged, it's going to be 1 document now for all of ECMAScript.
And it separates out the 3D elements from the 2D, but it gives you one place, and partially because ISO charges for documents, and we didn't want vendors to have to go and buy 2 documents for basically a lot of the same information.
Really?
Yes. 32,000 Part 1, because of the way fast track has always been freely downloadable.
Right.
But ISO documents in general are paid.
Our moderator back there is making funny motions.
Oh, simply use this motion.
High five.
Any other questions for our panel? If not,
I'll ask one.
Oh dear.
Cut him off.
Yeah.
Turn off.
Okay, do I get to ask a question?
Sorry, that's all the time we have.
You can ask a question.
I don't know, I was just gonna say, I was just asking, I apologize, I came in late to the session, I was dealing with something else, but if the panel wants to talk about some of the things that the ISO committee is working on in broad strokes, some of the directional ideas of where the committee thinks PDF is going, I thought might be a worthwhile thing for you to discuss.
We did actually.
Would you do that? Great. Good.
Awesome suggestion, we beat you to it.
I love when you guys think ahead.
But just to touch on that, we asked, it was a great question earlier about where we're going. But I think we also had a great question about when is PDF 2.0 coming? In that it's published, we're about to update it, but there's still a lot of momentum that's needed and inertia to overcome in it being sort of broadly the PDF version that's distributed. And that's only when the capabilities are used. That's what we said earlier. But I think we have to understand there's a lot of potential in that standard, stuff that we've added that's very open in the PDF 2.0 standard. The associated file mechanism that I think I touched on a little, Roman definitely talked about it quite a bit. There's another term, embedded files, they're subtly different, but associated files is the more modern mechanism by which you associate a blob of data, a file, in the PDF with some very explicit things. So for example, a structure element, a page, very detailed. And I think the amount of data you can carry in PDF and leverage is huge. And so PDF 2.0 has a lot of capabilities that I think that the industry will slowly build infrastructure around, where we haven't standardized what to do with it. We've just given that fundamental mechanism. And now we need the industry to start to adopt it, to see that use for it, and build on it. So while we're talking about the future of PDF, I think a lot of it is figuring out how to make full use of PDF 2.0, benefit from that.
Exactly. I mean, if you think of PDF 2.0 really as a playing field, well, the excitement comes not necessarily from that field, but it comes from what we as a team of vendors and solution providers can bring to our fans and our adoring public to see and to take advantage of. So I would encourage more adoption of the capabilities that are already there, rather than just looking for, okay, what's next in the standard.
I was just gonna say, one good example of that is the derivation spec that the PDF Association has just published. It's a use of a feature that's well established in 2.0 that's very open, and now a great vendor-driven standard through the association has come out that people can leverage, that doesn't add anything new to PDF, but adds a whole new capability that's kind of nascent within the technology itself.
So I guess just to add my 2 cents on that, so one of the other features I think is very big in PDF 2.0 is the support for UTF Unicode passwords in security, document security. That's very important for those who don't speak English. So I think that's a big feature. The other point too, a very technical point about PDF 2.0, we moved forward many of the normative references to the latest versions of those appropriate standards. So the imaging formats, the font formats have all now been moved forward. I'm not going to say to the absolute latest because PDF 2.0 was published in 2017 and those may have well moved forward even further. But we have moved forward the supporting underlying nested technologies as well. So if you're technically minded, I would encourage you to look at the normative references, which is available for free on the ISO website. You can read through them and see what the changes are there, especially if you're using open source packages.
I have a quick question, I think, have we seen PDF 2.0 files in the wild from other vendors besides the ones that were involved in the committees forming it just yet?
Yes.
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 Woo-hoo. Thank you.
Well, files labeled as PDF 2.0, not necessarily files using PDF 2.0 features.
That is a good point.
Such a killjoy.
We've definitely seen PDF 2.0 version files.
Yes,
Out there.
Sorry about that.
On that positive note,
You're welcome.
we've come to 5 o'clock, and I know that Matthew has to run for a plane. So it leaves it to me really to thank the panel for their time here, and to thank mostly all of you for having taken the time to come to Seattle, join us for the Electronic Document Conference. It's been our pleasure, the PDF Association, to host you, and we really genuinely believe we hope that you got something useful out of this. You will be receiving tonight an email with a request for you to complete a little survey that simply gives us a little bit of input on your feelings about the various sessions that you saw here, the event here. Please do me a favor, take that 5 minutes, fill out that survey, give us some input, some feedback to help us plan the next meeting to make it better. And that would be a tremendous help to us as we take that forward. Further, I'd suggest to you, please do take, because I don't want to take it back to Boston, there are copies of this book on the back corner of either of these 2 rooms here. This is PDF Products and Services 2019, a book created by the sponsors of this event, and contains some information from them about their various products and services. And so that's really it from us, folks. We thank Adobe Systems once again for hosting this event in this facility, to the great food, beverages, and refreshments that we've had here. We had a good cruise last night, and very much thanks to our speakers, sponsors of this event, and again to all of you for showing up. Thank you, and we'll see you very soon now.